Hello, I'm Colie Otzel. Welcome to America's Salon Academy, the podcast. I believe that success leaves clues, so listen closely as I discuss life and business with some of the world's best hair artists. My guest for today is a 28-year-old who has been in the beauty industry since the age of 16. She started off as an assistant and now owns her own salon named Lashes and Curls Studio in Key Largo, Florida. She is color-focused, a bridal expert, and an educator with the Sunlight's Balayage Artisan team. On April 28, 2019, she had an accident. She fell 2 stories down and landed to a broken back, leaving her paralyzed from the waist down. After 5 months of rest and recovery, she made her way back into the salon. Positivity, support from her family, love for her career, and a ton of drive keeps her moving forward. My guest is Yara de la Torre. What an honor to be speaking with you today.
Hi, thank you. I am honored to be here.
I'm so excited to have you on here. I was on Instagram and I was looking through some pictures and I saw your beautiful face pop up and I was like, who is this person? I need to know who this is.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about where are you from?
So I'm originally from Costa Rica. I was born and raised there. And at the age of 14, I moved to Key Largo, Florida. And that's where I've been ever since.
Cool. So what did your mom and dad do for a living when you were growing up?
So my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My father did a little bit of everything. He was a teacher, actually, for a long time, a professor in university. And he also did a little bit of traveling, and that's kind of what got us here. After traveling for a while, he decided to kind of take it easy and retire early. I was the youngest of 4 by a lot, so I was pretty little when my parents were ready to retire, and Key Largo's what they chose, and they brought me along with them. So,
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool. So what types of things did you do for fun then when you were growing up?
Growing up, wow, I haven't been asked this in so long. I'm 28 years old now, and I feel like we never talk about childhood. Growing up, I mean, of course, why did I do hair? I feel like I've always had a passion for hair, and I remember my niece, who was my oldest sister's daughter, so she was around 3 when I was around 9, and I remember playing with her hair. That was kind of the first little like dip of hairstyling that I got into. I would do little cute different styles on her. But yeah, growing up, it was an easy life. It was a different world in Costa Rica in the early 90s. Yeah, a lot of playing outside, a lot of hanging out with friends and the neighborhood, going to the park, that sort of thing. And then when I came here too at 14, it was a drastic change. I didn't speak the language. I had always a little bit of English, but it wasn't my first language, of course. So it was rough at 14 moving here and rediscovering life again in a completely different culture. But I ended up liking it, and I love where I live now. I love the islands. I love Key Largo, and this is where I have grown as a stylist from my teenage years. And I started off really, really early when I was 16, salon, and I grew from there. So yeah, that's.
Oh, wow. That sounds like you had a lot of fun growing up and you love where you live now and went through a lot of changes. But yeah, it sounds like you're where you're supposed to be, right?
Absolutely.
So, okay, you talked a little bit about hair. You said that you were 9 when you remember like playing, and that's where your first real connection came with. But how old were you when you actually figured out that hair was going to be your career?
It was really early on. It was like never really a doubt in my mind. I had talked to my mom about it growing up. I would It was just something that I always knew I wanted to do. But of course, I didn't go that route at first. I ended up finishing high school early and started taking college courses. And working at a doctor's office, and I wanted to pursue the medical field. This is at the age of 16. I started really early. I wanted to just get ahead in life and get going. I was not ready to wait,
Wow.
the whole full time. So anyway, what happened was I realized very quickly in those early community college courses that I was not about the medical field at all. Also, working at the doctor's office that I was working at that time, I realized that it really wasn't my scene. So I decided to get a different job. And while looking for a job, I landed a job as a receptionist in a salon. And while working there, I met a couple other girls that were assistants, and they were going to beauty school. And I was already attending college, so I decided to do both. I felt like I had to do this college thing because that's what I had set my goals to be and what my parents expected of me. But I also was really interested in doing hair. So that's what I started doing. And it was probably about 3 months into beauty school that I dropped my college courses. And I was like, this is definitely what I want to do.
Wow. So it just lined up just right for you.
Yeah, it really did. I think it was definitely destiny.
So your original dream or your original goal was probably to go into the medical field?
I wouldn't say it was my goal. I would say that my dream has always been to be a hairstylist. It didn't seem like a feasible dream. It didn't seem like it was going to be something that I could live off of. It just didn't add up with the way that I was brought up to think, okay, you're going to, reach to certain goals, go to college, find a career that makes money, makes sense. And I didn't really know how hairstyling worked. I mean, I remember growing up going to the hairstylist with my mom and we were interested, and that's really cool. I thought that you would just grow up and open up a salon. I didn't particularly know that there was, this is crazy to think, I didn't know that there was such thing as beauty school.
Right.
So yeah, I went the traditional route, and then when I discovered that it was something that I could do, that, and it was something that could make me money, and it was something that would make me and provide, for me, I decided to take that route.
Right. Mm-hmm. So did you have any fears that you had to overcome or face in order to make that change?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I feel like all of my greatest successes in life have come from overcoming, large fears. And
right.
And it all started, actually, like I mentioned, I skimmed over my story a little bit. I was going to college, and then I was going to beauty school. I actually had my mother help me sign me up to go to beauty school because I was underage. I was 16 and I needed my parents' signature and I needed a loan. And I didn't want to tell my dad about it because I knew that he was never going to go for it. So my mother signed papers for me, and I started going to beauty school and stayed in college for a little while, and then dropped out of college without telling my dad. So I also quit my job at the doctor's office without telling my father and started working at the salon. It was almost something that I kind of like wanted to keep hidden because him being a scholar, I just knew that he wasn't going to be too happy about it. Yeah. And that alone, led me to finding what I really loved, and which was that first salon that I was at for 3 years. And then 3 years later, another big fear of leaving the situation where I was at in the salon. That salon, although it was a great first place to start, it was also a very toxic environment by the end of my 3 years for a number of different reasons. It had to do with the owner and the way that the place was ran. It was just, and the fact that I was so young and I was just kind of following along. But I knew that I needed to get out of that situation, but I was so intertwined with the owner as a friend rather than just a coworker, that it was another big jump that I had to do that led me to the next place that I worked at, which was the most amazing salon. And I worked there for 7 years, and that place really built me as a stylist.
Now, do you still have any fears today that you feel that you need to overcome?
I feel like as I get a little bit older, the way that I see and evaluate my fears is a bit different, especially after going through something as traumatic as my injury. And I feel like I'm not afraid anymore of what could go wrong. I'm more of a believer that it happened for a reason and that everything always lands. So even when something bad comes along, I feel like it's part of the journey, and it's not necessarily something that's totally going to make you or break you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's really inspiring, coming from you, because I would imagine being in a wheelchair, doing hair, that would throw some curveballs at you. That would really, like, okay, how do I do this or how do I do that? And because it's new to you, it's not something you've lived with your whole life. I'm sure that there are a lot of learning curves for you. And how do you deal with that and stay so positive?
Oh yeah. Yeah, you brought that up. As far as going back into work and my new form per se, um, there were a lot of fears behind that. And
Yeah.
I started off slow. I didn't know what to expect because once you're sitting down, life is completely different. It's not, everything kind of becomes a little bit of a challenge and sort of like a puzzle that you have to figure out.
Yeah.
And I I knew that going back to work, I was going to have to need different tools. So I played around with different chairs. I actually found a chair that reclines back for my clients that helps me when I'm applying color or when I'm doing cuts. Um, I have had a couple different tools made for me to help me maneuver myself around a client when I'm working. So everything has been a little bit different. And yeah, it is scary. And every single day, you never know what to expect. Everything's still a little bit new for me. I've only been back to work for about 2.5 months. So
Right.
sometimes I'm like, okay, well, I've done, this many heads of hair and this many types of colors. But I haven't had, too many pixies yet. And it's just going to be a little bit more difficult for me because of the angle that I'm working at. So,
Right.
yeah.
The thing is, that's so inspiring about this whole thing is we all have fears. We all have things we have to overcome, but you have something that is so special because you are positive and you love the industry and your career so much that not even this has been able to defeat you. And I'm just so blessed and I feel so honored to even be having a conversation with you about your strengths and how amazing and how much of an example you can be, to all of us, to everybody listening.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you know, being positive and remaining positive kind of goes hand in hand with what we were talking about as far as fears go. Just knowing that everything's going to be okay, and having a good mindset really changes the way that you look at life every single day. So, having something that you love as well and being able to still do that, has really helped me get in a really good headspace and has really helped me overcome all of this fears and struggles and kind of roadblocks, and keep on going.
Yeah. So you're so connected to the love of your craft that nothing can hold you back from that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is just such a beautiful message. Now, I have a question a little bit about like feeling successful. How long throughout your career did it take you to really feel like you were successful?
Um, that's an interesting question because I feel like there's, maybe different levels of success in different periods of your life. Um,
Right.
I have, for the most part, thankfully, have felt very successful in many different levels at many different times. And, you know, um, when I was a young stylist, my idea of successful was to get enough recognition, like people awareness. Really, I wanted people to know that I existed, and I
Yeah.
wanted my book to have at least 2 to 3 clients a day. And when I reached that level and being busy maybe a week in advance, that was extremely successful for me at the time, and I felt
Right.
very good about it. And then I built on that, and I've reached little milestones throughout the years. But I think that there's definitely been a few times that I have felt extreme success, and it all happens very quickly.
Yeah.
And it's been wonderful. And it's taken me almost 10 years to really reach that point. And I would say that success for me now is just it's a new, like I said, milestone that I've reached, and I've gotten to a point where I just feel very confident in my craft. And success is not, the popularity anymore, or being booked out 2 to 3 weeks, months. I mean, before my accident, I was booked out 2 months in advance. And let me tell you, I don't even think that's successful anymore, because I was so overworked that it might have been maybe 2 years ago, my dream would have been to be booked 2 months in advance, and I saw that as success. But when I actually reached that, it wasn't as cool as I thought it was.
Right.
But I think that's success for me right now. I feel successful right now because I really understand hair very well. I understand that I do this because it helps me and it helps others. And I'm at a point where I'm helping other stylists reach that success, and that really means a lot to me right now. So
Yeah.
yes.
I really connect to that as well. That's where I'm at in my success, and my success story as well, is that it's time to give back. I feel like, I'm still learning, and I still have a lot of things I want to take in, but there's also so much that I want to give. And so I relate to that, and I get that completely. That's a very great way to explain success, because you're right. When you first sort of start out, it's almost like you have to have like the notoriety, and you want, the attention. And like you said, just to, people know you exist and you're important, and then you get that, and you get there, and you're like, but there's more to it than that. It becomes a deeper level. So very well said.
Couldn't agree more.
So if we stepped into your life today, okay, just a regular day, what would we see?
Okay. So my life is very interesting, I would say. I have a lot of quirks around me, so about me. So I am in a happy relationship with my fiance. Her name is Larissa. We have been together for 3 years, going on 4.
Okay.
We have
Congratulations.
Thank you. We have 2 beautiful children. My daughter Arai and my son Kalani. Arai is going to be 7 in a week, and Kalani just turned 5. And they're amazing children who keep me on my toes, and are, of course, a huge part of, the reason why I live life so happily. And it's because I do have a lot of really amazing support from my family, and just a really good support system all around me. So that's what you would see first thing in the morning if you were in my life. It would be my fiance and my kids. They go to school, and we of course, we're 2 moms who do all the parenting roles that everybody else does. We do taking to school, picking up. We also have a French Bulldog, Tommy, who's going to be 2 years old in January, and he's our 3rd child. I am currently have a very busy schedule again. Being in the hospital was almost like taking a little vacation, but life went on. Even after my accident, even though it felt like it was all going to collapse, it didn't. It continued on, because I have an amazing support system, not just my family, but my team at work. So right now I am back to being at the salon 2 or 3 times a week. And on the days that I'm not at the salon, I go to physical therapy. I do therapy 4 times a week, 2 times in Miami, which is about an hour drive from where I live. I go to a really amazing place called I Am Able, which is a gym that is it's a therapy-based gym for people with spinal cord injuries, traumatic brain injuries, MS, anything that kind of affects your spine or your body or gives you some sort of disability where you're not able to function properly. They have special trainers that work with us. So it's a
Wow.
really cool place. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. I found them. It's actually a funny story how we found them. But anyway, I found them and they are great. And they are an all out of pocket expense. So they're one of the biggest reasons why I have wanted to go back to work and get the wheels turning because having an injury and having a disability is really expensive.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky to have the ability to do what I love and still care for myself and my family and, you know, not have to let everything that I've worked so hard for just go to the back burner or fall apart. It's been such a blessing that even after this injury, I've been able to do what I love. You know, it's incredible. I think it speaks a lot for other people with injuries and disabilities because there's like really two ways that you can look at life after something like this big happens to you, and one way is really good and the other one is really bad. So
Right.
um, I'm just happy that I'm able to go the really good route. So yeah, that's pretty much kind of like what my life entails. It's work, therapy, my family, of course. I make sure that I spend a lot of quality time with them, a lot more than I was able to before my accident, and because my accident put a lot of things into perspective. So
Yeah.
um yeah, and then I'm working hard on my business and really hard on educating now. My team has grown since I was in my accident. I had two team members. One was Michaela, my main stylist, who was my assistant for a year before she became a stylist. And she's the one who was able to keep the salon running while I was in the hospital. And then my other gal, Kala, who is still our assistant, and she just graduated to junior stylist.
Nice.
Yes. And they have kept the salon running, and I hired two more girls. One is Mel, and she helps me out with the bridal aspect of my business, and she's also a colorist and hairstylist behind the chair. Um, and then I also have one more girl coming on board in December. So I am really
Still
trying.
growing.
Yes. So I'm really trying to, you know, go back to work, do what I love. But instead of focusing so much on like me now, I'm trying to grow the team and help them get to those, you know, success milestones that they want to put there for themselves. So
Right.
yeah,
Wow. That's really that's really cool. Thank you for sharing that with us.
of course.
So, just a few more questions. What do you do to bring calmness or peace into your life? Because I would imagine, all the things that you have. I have children. I understand kids, they're great. They're great. They're great. Sometimes you just need a break, right?
Yes.
So what types of things do you do when you start feeling overwhelmed or when you get frustrated by something?
Well, you know, I think that frustration and feeling of being overwhelmed, it happens to all of us, no matter what condition we're in. And of course, I have a lot of extra added stress because my life is nothing like what it used to be. I mean, I have discovered that there is no definition of normal. Like there is no normal.
Absolutely.
Everybody has a different normal. And you know what was normal to me 6 months ago is not anymore, and what is normal to me now would have been crazy to 6 months ago, Yara, you know.
Yes.
But we adapt, and I have spent a lot of time like soul searching and keeping motivated. I mean, consciously keeping myself motivated. This question that you're asking me like how to keep at peace has been asked to me a lot of times since my injury. People have reached out to me on Messenger or DMs all over the world. I've had clients, new clients who have come to me because they have a disability and I've never seen them before. And there's, they found me and they want to come to me for hair, but more than that, they want to come to me for almost advice. And I've had people
Right.
ask me like, how do you stay so positive? And the best way that I've been able to explain it is I just tell myself to do it. Like I wake up and I make the choice that today is going to be a good day. And I surround myself with everything positive that I can imagine. So whatever it is that day, whether it is going online and looking up quotes, as silly as it sounds, if you just read some good, healthy, happy, feel good soul stuff in the morning and maybe say it to yourself a few times, maybe repost it, put a cute little smiley face. It sounds silly, but it gets you going. Or some days it's going outside and just taking in nature. I'm lucky to live in a place where there's beauty all around me and I can just go outside and stop for a moment and give myself that time to like think and feel calm and then move on with my day.
Right.
And most recently, actually, after my accident, one of the things that I have found that has given me peace more than anything has been like really proper planning. Like just stop cheating yourself and telling yourself that you're going to accomplish things and not actually do them and then just feeling overwhelmed. Like I have actually just put a game plan into action with a planner and I plan out all of the things that I have to do with work, with social media, with my family, with myself, with my medicines, with my therapy. You can imagine I have a lot more probably than the average human. And then just really committing yourself to doing it and waking up in the morning and like making it happen. I think that life is just all about how you choose to look at it and who you choose to be, and you have that choice every single day. Like, and some days I'm not that person. Most recently I just had a medical procedure that was really cool, but it really wore me out. And the past few days I haven't been that person, but
Yeah.
I know that I'm giving myself that time. And then today I began being that person again. Today I woke up, and I did my planning and I did my emails and I did everything that I had to do. And I think that really helps, just kind of caring about yourself enough to commit to yourself to being a good human being. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, what a strong message, because I personally, I have struggled with depression in the past. And, I don't consider myself to be depressed, but there's times like that where, you consciously, you have to get up, you have to get moving, you have to, like you're saying, the motivational quotes, you've got to push through, you've got to find the things you're thankful for and hang on to those. Be present, be in the moment, be proud, be, all of these things. And so everything that you're saying relates to me, and I'm sure it relates to so many people. And you have been, in my opinion, chosen for a voice, to have a voice and to speak for people who wouldn't necessarily had a chance to speak. And so I am just so grateful that you gave me your time, because it's just so extremely valuable. So I'm just so thankful that you were able to do this and we were able to connect. But I have one last question for you, and that is, do you think that you will ever retire from this industry?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have, like I said, I have a plan, and I actually, yes, 100%. I have a plan to retire. I think that we should all retire. I think that that is actually one of the parts in the industry that's lacking really. I think we all jokingly say it, and I am guilty of this myself. I will die behind a chair. I will die doing hair until the last, it's like an ongoing joke. And it's like, because a big part of it is because we love it. I mean, I wouldn't be
Oh,
mad.
for sure.
I wouldn't be mad if I died behind a chair. That's okay. But do I want to work until I die behind a chair? Definitely not. And I think that we should all make a change to really be just more than hairstylists, and people who, cut hair, and be more like business driven and make a plan and know that we can become, wealthy, not just wealthy with money, but wealthy with time, wealthy with, love, and wealthy with money as well by, working hard and getting the best that this industry has to offer to all of us. So yeah, I wouldn't be mad if I died behind a chair, but I definitely want to retire.
Oh, good. That's always an interesting question because, like you say, a lot of people are like, oh no, I'm going to be in the industry forever, whether it be in a different category of the industry. But a lot of us, it's our hobby, it's what we love, and it's so hard to not identify ourselves as a hairstylist. You have to detach at some point. So I love that question because everybody answers it so differently.
I agree.
But Yara, thank you so much for being open and honest and being vulnerable and sharing so many things with us. And you've really opened my eyes, and I'm sure you've opened a lot of people's eyes who are going to be listening to this podcast. But I realize that time is so valuable, like we talked about, and I really appreciate you sharing your time with me today.
Thank you so much, Colie.
I'm Colie Otzel, and you've been listening to America's Salon Academy Conversations. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. If you haven't yet, go to Apple Podcast, subscribe, review, and rate this podcast. Join me every other week for another America's Salon Academy conversation. Thank you for listening. For more education and information, visit americassalonacademy.com.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money for your podcast with minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
Download the free Anchor app. Or go to anchor.fm to get started.